Charles, so far we've spent time hearing some of the facts from the murder case involving General May and your ancestor, Farmer Freeman. So let's find out a bit more. Before the trial, General May said that he didn't think the jury would believe your ancestor's testimony, and it appears that May made these remarks for a couple of reasons. As you suggested, first, May believed that the wound he had inflicted on Farmer Freeman would ultimately result in his death. After all, a bullet was still in his foot, meaning he wouldn't be around to testify, right?
Correct.
Because dead people can't talk, right? So second, Farmer Freeman was an African-American man, as you mentioned, a person of color. So Kentucky had a long history of preventing African-Americans from exercising the same legal rights as white men, and from our early statehood well beyond the Civil War. However, Farmer Freeman's testimony was not only believed by both juries, but it was also revealed a significant nugget of family history. So Charles, will you please read Freeman's testimony about their relationship?
Farmer Freeman's grandma and the defendant May's grandma was sisters, which means that Freeman and May were cousins.
Wow. What do you think about that?
That's fascinating.
So when we talk about that close connection, maybe it was closer than what was originally thought or what you had originally discovered.
Correct.
Well, in the end, General May was convicted of both murders. He was sentenced to life in prison for Sherman's murder and sentenced to death for the murder of Belle and her unborn twins. It wasn't until 2004 that Kentucky enacted a statute that authorized punishment for the killing of the unborn at any time after conception. Although the law had not been enacted, the killing of unborn children was likely the determining factor for his punishment. After the verdict, General May was sentenced to Eddyville State Penitentiary in Lyon County. So before we take our final commercial break, let's learn more about this infamous Kentucky prison known as the Castle.
It's known as the Castle on the Cumberland because it resembles a medieval castle when you're looking at it, especially if you're out in the lake. Well, the history of the Kentucky State Penitentiary is a long one, going all the way back to the frontier days and mode of punishment when they really didn't have any prisons until the Frankfort prison was built. By the turn of the century, the conditions here at the Frankfort prison had gotten so deplorable that Luke Blackburn, who was the governor at that time, was able to get legislation passed to build a branch penitentiary. The people in Eddyville wanted it because it'd be a boon to their economy. The first inmates went into the penitentiary at Christmas Eve 1889, and he remained a branch penitentiary for years until they shut down Frankfort prison in, I think, mid-1930s. Well, the size of the penitentiary and its architecture is huge and it's massive. They had 30 Italian stonemasons to come in, and they quarried the stone from a nearby rock quarry. And at first, it was just the central administration building, and then they had 3 cell houses attached to the left. It remained that way until 1910, when another cell block was put on the right, and then in the 1930s, 5 cell house was built. They had a capacity of about 800 inmates. At times, it would get up to 1,600 during the Depression. Every advance in the implementation of capital punishment has been with the notion of making it more and more humane. And some of the older modes of execution didn't sound very humane to us, but at the time, they considered it more humane, and electrocution was, just beginning to become pretty standard in this country. So the electric chair went in at Eddyville about 1910, and over the period of time, they had 162 prisoners executed at Eddyville. And then there was quietus on execution between 1962 and about 12, 15, 20 years later when they reinstituted the death penalty in Kentucky. Earl McQueen was executed there after I became circuit judge. So he was the last person electrocuted because they went to lethal injection and have had, I think, 3 by lethal injection. For a total, I think it's a total of 165 people who have been executed there. And in the 1980s, I think it was, 1 and 2 cell houses were totally gutted and renovated and were no longer used as cell houses. They built 7 cell houses out back to replace it. So those are used now. Those old cell houses are still there, but they've been gutted and are now used for administrative offices, chapels, things of that nature. I know a lot of inmates. I have a lot of inmate friends. A lot of them would rather do time there. Although it's maximum security, it'd rather be time there than maybe LaGrange and some of the other facilities.